Ahora sí creo que ya me escucha. Mm, que uno que lo revise antes de empezar. Pero bueno, volviendo a la lectura. That's just it. The murderer must have been there and bulged himself in. And they'd have caught him for certainty if Koch had not been an ass and gone to look for the porter too. He must have seized the interval to get downstairs and slip by them somehow. Koch keeps crossing himself and saying, if I had been there, he would have jumped out and killed me with his axe. He's going to have a Thanksgiving service. Ha ha. And no one saw the murder? They might well not see him. In the house is a regular Noah's Ark, said the head clerk, who was listening. It's clear, quite clear, Nikodem Fomitch repeated warmly. No, it is anything but clear, Ilya Petrovich main- maintained. Raskolnikov picked up his hat and walked towards the door, but he had not reached it. When he recovered consciousness, he found himself sitting in a chair, supported by someone on the right side, while someone else was standing on the left, holding a yellowish glass filled with yellow water. Nikodem Fomitch, standing before him, looked intently at him. He had gone up for the chair. No, he had gone up from the chair. Sorry. What's this? Are you ill? Nikodem Fomitch asked, rather sharply. He could hardly hold his pen when he was signing, said the head clerk, settling back in his place and taking up his work again. Have you been ill long? Cried Ilya Petrovich from his place, where he too was looking through papers. He had, of course, come to look at the sick man when he fainted, but retired at once when he recovered. Since yesterday, muttered Raskolnikov in reply. Did you go out yesterday? Yes. Though you were ill? Yes. At what time? About 7. And when did you go, may I ask? Along the street? Short and clear. Let me just make sure it was the right page. Okay. Raskolnikov, white as a handkerchief, had answered sharply, jerkily, without dropping his black, feverish eyes before Ilya Petrovich's stare. He can sacredly stand upright. And you, Nikitin Fomitch, was beginning. No matter. Ilya Petrovich pronounced rather peculiarly. Nikitin Fomitch would have made some further protest, but glancing at the head clerk, who was looking very hard at him, he did not speak. There was a sudden silence. It was strange. Very well, then, concluded Ilya Petrovich. We will not detain you. Raskolnikov went out. He caught the sound of eager conversation on his departure. And above the rest rose the questioning voice of Nikodim Fomitch. In the street, his faintness passed off completely. A search there will be a search at once, he repeated to himself, hurrying home. The brutes, they suspect. The former terror mastered him completely again. Chapter 2. And what if there has been a search already? What if I find them in my room? But there was his room. Nothing and no one in it. No one had peeped in. Even Natasha had not touched it. But heavens, how could he have felt all those things in the hole? He rushed to the corner, slipped his hand under the paper, pulled the things out, and filled his pockets with them. There were 8 articles in all, 2 little boxes with earrings and something of the sort. He hardly looked to see when 4 small leather cases. There was a chain too, merely wrapped in newspaper, and something else in newspaper that looked like a decoration. He put them all in the different pockets of his overcoat and the remaining pocket of his trousers, trying to conceal them as much as possible. He took the purse too. Then he went out of his room, leaving the door open. He walked quickly and resolutely, and though he felt shattered, he had his senses about him. He was afraid of pursuit. He was afraid that in another half hour, another quarter of an hour perhaps, instructions would be issued for his pursuit, and so at all costs, he must hide all traces before then. He must clear everything up while he still had some strength, some reasoning power left him. Where was he to go? That had long been settled. Fling them into a canal, and all traces hidden in the water. The thing would be at an end. So he had decided in the night of his delirium, when several times he had the impulse to get up and go away, to make haste and get rid of it all. But to get rid of it turned out to be a very difficult task. He wandered along the bank of Ekaterinski Ekaterinski Canal for half an hour or more and looked several times at the steps running down to the water. But he could not think of carrying out his plan. Either rafts stood at the steps edge, and women were washing clothes on them, or boats were moored there. I don't know what that means, but I have an idea what it means. I'm gonna just keep going. Just context clues, I don't know. We're moored there, and people were swarming everywhere. Moreover, he could be seen and noticed from the banks on all sides. It would look suspicious for a man to go down on purpose, stop, and throw something into the water. And if the boxes were to float instead of sinking, and of course they would, even as it was, even as it was, everyone he met seemed to stare and look around, as if they had nothing to do but watch him. Why is it? Or can it be my fancy? He thought. At last, the thought struck him that it might be better to go to the Neva. There were not so many people there. He would be less observed, and it would be more convenient in every way. Above all, it was further off. He wondered how he could have been wandering for a good half an hour, worried and anxious in this dangerous part without thinking of it before. And that half hour he had lost over an irrational plan, simply because he had thought of the delirium. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but es como delirio. Delirium. He had become extremely absent and forgetful, and he was aware of it. He certainly must make haste. Mm. He walked towards the Neva along V Prospect, but on the way, another idea struck him. Why to the Neva? Would it not be better to go somewhere far off? To the islands again? And there hide the things in some solitary place? In a wood or under a bush? And mark the spot perhaps? And though he felt incapable of clear judgment, the idea seemed to him a sound one. But he was not destined to go there. For coming out of the prospect towards the square, he saw on the left passage leading between two blank walls to the courtyard. On the right hand, the blank, unwhitewashed wall of a four-storied house stretched far into the court. On the left, a wooden hoarding ran parallel with it for 20 paces into the court, and then turned sharply to the left. Here was a deserted, fenced off place where rubbish of different sorts was lying. At the end of the court, the corner of a low, smutty stone shed, apparently part of some workshop, peeped from behind the hoarding. It was probably a carriage builder's, I think that's what it says right here, or a carpenter's shed. The whole place from the entrance was black with coal dust. Here would be the place to throw it, he thought. Not seeing anyone in the yard, he slipped in and at once saw near the gate a sink, such is often put in yards where there are many workmen or cab drivers. And on the hoarding above had been scribbled in chalk the time honored witticism. Sorry, I'm curious what that means. I think it has to do with wit, but I'm gonna be real, I don't even think I know what wit means, but let me just double check just to make sure. I guess, yeah, a witty remark.
Witticism.
Witticism. It sounded like criticism, but it was a witticism. Anyways, standing here strictly forbidden. This was all the better, for there would be nothing suspicious about his going in. Here I could throw it all in a heap and get away. Looking round once more, with his hand already in his pocket, he noticed against the outer wall, between the entrance and the sink, a big unhood, I don't know how to pronounce this, an ound, sorry, please give me pronunciation, please. I'm about to do this, I guess.
Unhewn.
Unhewn. A big unhewn stone, weighing perhaps 60 pounds. The other side of the wall was a street. He could hear passers by, always numerous in that part, but he could not be seen from the entrance unless someone came in from the street, which might well happen indeed. So there was a need of haste. He bent down over the stone, seized the top of it firmly with both hands, and using all his strength, turned it over. Under the stone was a small hollow in the ground, and he immediately emptied his pocket into it. The purse lay at the top, and yet the hollow was not filled up. He seized the stone again, and with one twist turned it back, so that it was in the same position again, though it stood a very little higher. But he scraped the earth about it and pressed it at all the edges with his foot. Nothing could be noticed. Then he went out and turned into the square. Again, an intense, almost unbearable joy overwhelmed him for an instant, as it had in the police office. I have buried the tracks, and who can think of looking under that stone? It has been lying there most likely ever since the house was built, and will lie as many years more. And if it were found, who would think of me? It's all over. No clue. And he laughed. Yes, he remembered that he began laughing at a thin, nervous, noiseless laugh, and went on laughing all the time. He was crossing the square, but when he reached the K Boulevard, where 2 days before he had come upon that girl, his laughter suddenly ceased. Other ideas crept into his mind. He felt all at once that it would be loathsome to pass that seat on which, after the girl was gone, he had sat and pondered, and that it would be hateful too to meet that whiskered policeman to whom he had given the 20 kopecks. Damn him. He walked, looking about him angrily and distractedly. All his ideas now seemed to be circling around some single point, and he felt that there really was such a point, that now he was left facing that point. And for the first time, indeed, during the last 2 months, damn it all, he thought suddenly. It was a fit of ungovernable fury. If it if it has begun, then it has begun. Hang the new life. Good Lord, how stupid it is. And what lies I told today, how despicably I fawned upon that wretched Ilya Petrovitch. But that is all folly. What do I care for them all and fawning upon them? It is not, it is not at all, it is not at all. It is not that at all. It is not that at all. Suddenly he stopped. A new, utterly unexpected, and exceedingly simple question perplexed and bitterly confounded him. If it was all really, if it has, fuck me, if it all has really been done deliberately and not idiotically, if I really had a certain and defined object, how is it I did not even glance into the purse and do not know what I had there, for which I have undergone these agonies and have deliberately undertaken this base, filthy, degrading business? And here I wanted at once to throw it into the water, the purse together with all the things which I had not seen either. How's that? Yes, that was so. That was also. Yet he had known it all before. And it was not a new question for him, even when it was decided in the night. Without hesitation or consideration, the thought, so it must be, as though it could not possibly be otherwise. Yes, he had known it all. Wait, did I just I don't fucking know. I'll just keep going. And understood it all. It was surely had been said it even yesterday at the moment when he was bending over the box and pulling the jewel cases out of it. Yes, so it was. It is because I am very ill, he decided grimly at last. Have been worrying and fretting myself, and I do not know what I am doing. Yesterday and the day before yesterday and all this time I have been worrying about myself. I have been worrying myself. I shall get well and shall not worry. But what if I don't get well at all? Good God, how sick I am of it all. He walked on. Give me a second, bro. I need to catch my breath. Okay. He walked on without resting. He had a terrible longing for some distraction, but he did not know what to do, what to attempt. A new overwhelming sensation was gaining more and more mastery over him every moment. This was an immeasurable, almost physical repulsion for everything surrounding him, an obstinate, malignant feeling of hatred. All who met him here, all who met him were loathsome to him. He loathed their faces, their movements, their gestures, and if anyone had addressed him, he felt that he might have spat at him or bitten him. He stopped suddenly on coming out of the bank of the little Neva near the bridge to Vasilyevsky Ostrov. Why he lives here in the house, he thought. Why I have not come to Resuming on my own accord. Here, it's the same thing over again. Very interesting to know. Though, have I come on purpose or have I simply walked here by chance? Never mind. I said the day before yesterday that I would go and see him the day after. Well, and so I will. Besides, I really cannot go further now. He went up to Rasumin's room on the fifth floor. The latter was at home in his garret, busily writing at the moment. And he opened the door himself. You know, I'm gonna just leave it there, bro. I'm tired. Buenas noches. Nos vemos mañana.